The most anticipated earnings releases for the week of February 24th, 2025. Presented by earningswhispers. Ha! Did you think we were finished with earnings season? Not only is, arguably, the most important name in the market today scheduled to report, but we are going to get nearly as many companies with analyst coverage report this week as the last 2 weeks combined. In fact, there are about as many Russell 2000 companies reporting this week as the total number of companies that reported last week. Plus, if you wanted to dig down into those tiny companies with no analyst coverage that no one really trades, then this is the busiest week of earnings season. We won't waste your time with those, though. We are going to start things off on Monday with Domino's, but investors care more about himsandhers reporting after the close. Data checks seem to make it clear that the company is going to beat estimates, and the stock started rallying in anticipation of that news. However, on Friday, the FDA said the company and others will have to stop selling its versions of Novo Nordisk's Wegovy by the middle of the second quarter. That means there might still be upside next quarter, but it is going to be much more difficult and is at risk of seeing negative growth, with May representing the one-year anniversary of the company beginning to sell semaglutide. Unless the company tells us something different, any strength after earnings should likely be sold. Domino's, meanwhile, is doing well and has potential growth ahead of it, but it has filled that $480 gap, so the trade is likely in the direction away from that line. There are roughly 150 companies reporting on Tuesday, with Kava topping the list. The company continues to grow and perform well, but winter weather creates some volatility this quarter, so perhaps buy weakness after the news. Earlier on Tuesday, we will get results from Home Depot, which sold off to what is a neckline of a head and shoulders pattern, so a move lower could be significant. But the company tracked well during the quarter. Wednesday is the day you've been waiting for. Of course, that means Nvidia, which will report results approximately 20 minutes after the close. This is still a growth story that has a lot of tailwinds, but with one important headwind: margins. Margins are expected to continue to decline for another quarter, and that hasn't typically been a positive for the stock. However, you really want to know about Blackwell and demand following the DeepSeek news. We will also get Snowflake's results after the close on Wednesday. And what we've learned from DeepSeek is that a shift is coming away from hardware and into software, or more specifically, the data used by the software. Yet, it might still be a quarter or two away. If you need proof that it is still earnings season, then how about a day with about 250 companies with analyst coverage scheduled to report, making it the biggest data this quarter? Of those, investors are most interested in SoundHound AI, which isn't really an earnings story, but rather an early innings story of future growth. So what matters is demand and spending on AI. So far, so good, but the chart is a falling knife going into earnings after the post-election rally. Then there is Dell, which has supply chain bottlenecks for AI servers limiting upside. But it has also worked off some sentiment, while the supply chain issues are expected to get resolved shortly. It also isn't just an AI server company, and as we see AI PCs start to get orders, the second half of the year looks to be stronger. Friday will be topped by fuboTV, but much of that trade is over after the deal with Disney. That leaves TeraWulf, which traded higher following the election and cryptocurrency hopes, and investors have been selling ever since. The earnings release isn't expected to be a catalyst that reverses that. With over 700 companies scheduled to report and more than half of them within the Russell 2000, there is sure to be some big, volatile moves this week. One standout is Applied Optoelectronics, but really only because it has gapped lower following fourth quarter results each of the past 7 years. That's not a great reason to sell ahead of earnings this time, and in fact, the stock rallied last quarter despite missing expectations and giving guidance below estimates. When stocks rally on negative news, you take note. Or was that just the election tide taking it higher? We'll find out after the close on Wednesday. Earnings season mainly comes to an end this week with Nvidia out of the way, and the number of earnings releases dropping lower over the coming weeks. But don't worry, it won't seem like it because there are still names filling up the monthly calendar, with the last week of March now getting filled in.